said, Mark, don't lie. Why? Because it's not appropriate. And I lied, and they washed my mouth out with soap. I got the message. I'm not supposed to lie. Now, that changed what comes out of my mouth, but it didn't change my heart. And only the Holy Spirit, through the food of truth, the bread of life, can clean the heart. We can teach dogs to speak and birds to speak and chipmunks to do things, but we can't change the heart. The only one that changes the heart is the Spirit. And the Spirit has to change our heart. And that is a process of God's process. So when we go to the Scriptures, our goal is not to learn from what Mark says, but to learn from what God says. And that means he has to become our teacher. And we are not taught in Catholic school, and I wasn't taught in Sunday school. I wasn't taught in Awanas, and I taught Awanas, and I taught Bible studies, and I taught youth groups. I was not taught how to teach how to learn from the Holy Spirit. But that's what we must learn. And we must develop our doctrines. And when we develop our doctrines by asking him the questions and reading the words and pondering over it with him, he then puts the truth in our minds and pushes out the doctrines of men. And even though I was never really taught doctrines of men, only for a few years. I mean, when I went to Lutheran school, Lutheran church, and then about 13, 14 years old, I just left the church and said, I'm going to do it my way. And then God says, when I made a mess out of everything, he says, now you ready to accept my way? And I said, yep. And I was 20. I did not get bombarded by a lot of doctrines of men. And I studied his word, but I sit back today and say, well, man, there's a lot of doctrines I still have to present to him. Say, I think this, God, is this correct? And we have to, and I like what you said, Gene, that willingness, and this is what Jesus said, unless you become like a little child, willing to learn.